"Please, don't leave me here," she cried, and the cowboy loosened her ropes and asked, "Who did this to you?" Chapter 1. The Woman by the Post. The wind had no mercy that afternoon. It howled through the dry streets of Copper Bend, whipping dust into the air and tearing at the faded banners strung across the wooden storefronts. The town was small, one main street, a saloon, a church, and too many eyes that saw everything but kindness. And in the middle of that street, tied to a splintered post beside the well, stood a woman. Her wrists were bound cruelly with coarse rope, her dress was torn, her knees scraped raw from being pushed down. Her head hung low beneath a curtain of tangled brown hair. The townsfolk had gathered around her like buzzards. "She deserves it," someone muttered. "Caught her tryin' to run," said another. A few men spat in the dirt and laughed. The sheriff leaned lazily against the railing of his office porch, arms folded. "Let her stand there a while. Might make her think twice next time." No one asked what she'd done. No one cared to. A mile out of town, a lone rider followed the dirt trail, his horse moving steady under the weight of the heat. Eli Carter, a quiet rancher with calloused hands and a soul made older by war, had come into Copper Bend for supplies and silence. But silence wasn't what he found. As he neared the town's edge, the sound reached him first, a woman's cry, thin and desperate, carried on the wind. "Please, don't leave me here." Eli stopped his horse, the muscles in his jaw tightening. He'd heard that tone before, once in the army camps, once on the border roads. The sound of someone breaking, one breath away from giving up. He nudged his horse forward. The crowd parted as he entered, his presence heavy even before he spoke. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dust-streaked hat and a long coat that carried the scent of gunpowder and rain. A few men nodded respectfully, others stepped aside. No one wanted trouble with Eli Carter. His gaze swept over the square, settling on the bound woman. "What's this?" he asked, voice low but cutting through the murmurs. The sheriff grunted. "Outsider woman. Been driftin' from town to town. Says she's lookin' for her brother, but folks caught her trespassin' on property near the mill. Tried to run when questioned." Eli's eyes darkened. "So you tied her up in the middle of town?" The sheriff smirked. "She'll live. Just a lesson in manners." Eli dismounted, his boots thudding against the dirt. "Untie her." The sheriff's smile faded. "Ain't your business, Carter." "Now it is," Eli said, stepping closer. "Untie her, or I will." Tension rippled through the crowd. Dust swirled at their feet as the wind picked up. The sheriff hesitated. He'd seen Eli fight once, years ago, and hadn't forgotten it. But before he could speak, Eli pulled out his knife. With one swift motion, he cut the ropes from the woman's wrists. She gasped, stumbling forward, catching herself on the post. The crowd fell silent. Eli's voice dropped low. "Who did this to you?" The woman looked up for the first time. Her eyes, gray as storm clouds, met his. There was fear there, yes, but also something stronger, something that refused to die. Her lips trembled. "They said I was lying. I told them I didn't take anything. I just wanted to ask about my brother." Eli glanced at the sheriff. "You hear that?" The man shrugged. "She was snoopin'. That's enough for me." Eli's temper flared. "You think punishment like this makes you lawmen?" The sheriff took a step back. "Now hold on, Carter." But Eli was already lifting the woman gently to her feet. "You're done here," he said to the sheriff. "And if I hear of this happenin' again, I'll come back and tie you to that post." A few townsmen muttered agreement under their breath. The sheriff didn't answer. Eli wrapped his coat around the woman's shoulders. "Come on, miss. You're leavin' with me." She shook her head weakly. I don't even know your name." "Eli Carter," he said simply. "And you?" "Anna," she whispered. "Anna Moore." "Well, Anna Moore," he said, helping her toward his horse. "Looks like Copper Bend forgot what decency means. You'll be safe with me." They rode for an hour before stopping at a creek under the red cliffs north of town. Eli helped her down, untied a small canteen, and handed her water. She drank in silence, the setting sun casting gold through her hair. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft and hoarse. "I wasn't lying," she said. "My brother, Luke, he came this way 2 weeks ago. He sent a letter sayin' he found work in Copper Bend. But when I got here, no one even remembered him." Eli frowned. "What kind of work?" "Mining. Said he'd be hauling or near the old ridge." Eli's jaw tightened. The old ridge mine had been shut down months ago after a collapse. Men who worked there never came back. He crouched near the fire pit, tossing a few twigs in. "You think he's still there?" "I don't know," she said. "But I have to find him. He's all I have left." Eli nodded slowly. "You'll find him. But not alone." Anna looked at him, confusion flickering in her tired eyes. "Why would you help me? You don't even know me." He stirred the fire, sparks rising. "Maybe I've seen enough folks turned away when they needed a hand. Maybe I just got tired of watchin'." She smiled faintly, small, uncertain, but real. "You're a strange man, Eli Carter." He chuckled under his breath. "That's what they keep tellin' me." As night fell, they sat by the fire. The stars spilled across the dark sky like scattered glass. Anna's hand still trembled, her wrists raw where the rope had dug deep. Eli noticed and tore a strip from his sleeve, wrapping her wrists gently. She watched him, tears catching the firelight. "You didn't have to do that," she murmured. "Sure I did," he said quietly. "You've bled enough for one day." Silence settled between them, not heavy, just quiet, like the calm after a long storm. Finally, Anna whispered, "When they tied me there, I thought no one would ever come. I prayed, but—" She stopped, voice breaking. "I was sure no one was listenin'." Eli looked up at the stars. "Sometimes the answer's just ridin' slower than we expect." Her eyes softened. "Then I reckon you were that answer." He gave a faint smile, eyes meeting hers through the firelight. "Maybe. Or maybe just a man who hates bullies." Anna laughed softly, and the sound, fragile but full of life, stirred something deep in him. When she finally lay down near the fire, exhaustion pulling her under, Eli sat awake a while longer, watching the flames flicker. He wasn't sure why he cared so much. Maybe it was the look in her eyes when she said, "Please." Maybe it was the way she'd stood tall even after being humiliated in front of everyone. Or maybe, deep down, he recognized something of himself in her, a soul that had been tied up and left behind. As dawn began to color the horizon, he whispered quietly to the wind, "I'll get you to your brother, Anna. That's a promise." "Who did this to you?" Almost equals 2,200 words. The morning sun over Dust Rock painted the horizon gold, but its warmth couldn't chase the chill that lingered in Lila's heart. She awoke in a soft bed, her wrists bandaged, the scent of pine and soap around her. For a moment, she didn't know where she was, until the steady rhythm of boots on wooden floorboards reminded her. Calder Hayes. The cowboy who had cut her loose. The memory returned like a flood, the jeering crowd, the ropes cutting into her skin, the tears she could not hold back, and then, his voice low and calm, asking the words that had haunted her all night. "Who did this to you?" He'd brought her to his cabin after the sheriff refused to listen. The town wanted a spectacle, not the truth. And yet Calder, the quiet rancher who rarely spoke to anyone, had defied them all. Now, she heard the creak of the door and his voice. "You awake, Miss Lila?" She sat up slowly, the blanket slipping from her shoulders. "Yes. I didn't mean to sleep so long." Calder shook his head, setting a tray beside her bed. "You needed rest. And a meal." He'd made her eggs, biscuits, and something that smelled faintly of coffee. No one had shown her kindness in so long that she didn't know how to respond. "You cooked this?" A faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Don't sound so surprised. I'm not completely hopeless in the kitchen." She tried to smile back, but her lips trembled. "You should have left me there. Helping me could bring trouble. He met her eyes, steady, calm, unafraid. Maybe. But letting good folks suffer ain't something I can walk away from. Silence filled the cabin, broken only by the crackle of the fireplace. Outside, a breeze rattled the wooden shutters. Then Calder spoke again, voice gentler. "Lila, you never answered my question. Who tied you out there?" Her fork froze midair. Her breath hitched. "I can't," she whispered. "They'll come for you too." "I'm not afraid of them," he said. She looked down, twisting the blanket in her hands. "You should be. Sheriff Murdoch and the town council, they run Dust Rock. I was working at the tavern, serving drinks, when I caught one of them stealing money from a lockbox. I thought telling the sheriff would help." Her voice cracked. But the sheriff was the one stealing. Calder's jaw clenched. "And they made you the criminal. They said I'd tried to rob the tavern myself. Said I was indecent. They tied me in the square to make a lesson out of me." He took a long, steady breath, trying to calm the fury rising in him. "You did nothing wrong." "They don't care," she said, shaking her head. "People believe what they're told. Especially when it's a woman's word against men like them." Calder rose, crossing the small cabin to the window. He looked out toward the open plains, sunlight flashing on his spurs. "You can't stay here forever," he murmured. "They'll look for you." "I know," she said softly. "But where can I go? I've got no family left. No place that'll take me." He turned, eyes meeting hers. "Then stay here. At least till I figure this out." She blinked. "I can't ask that of you." "You didn't ask," he said simply. "I offered." For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Lila nodded, tears glimmering in her eyes. "Thank you, Calder." He nodded once. "Eat. I'll be back before sundown." "Where are you going?" "To the sheriff's office." She reached out, panic flashing in her voice. "No. Please, you'll make it worse." But Calder just tipped his hat. "I've lived in worse storms than this, Miss Lila." That afternoon, the town buzzed with whispers. Calder Hayes had ridden in, tied his horse outside the sheriff's station, and walked through those double doors like a man who carried justice in his holster. Inside, Sheriff Murdoch looked up from his desk, a half-empty bottle beside him. "Hayes, what brings a rancher like you to my office?" Calder leaned against the doorframe, calm but coiled like a drawn bowstring. "You made a mistake out in that square yesterday." Murdoch laughed. "You mean that thieving girl? She got what she deserved. You shouldn't be interfered." "She didn't steal anything," Calder said flatly. "You did." The room fell silent. Deputies nearby froze, hands hovering over their guns. Murdoch's smirk faded. "Careful, Cowboy. That's a mighty big accusation." Calder stepped closer. "Not an accusation. Truth." The sheriff's face hardened. "You think you can stroll in here and threaten me?" Calder's hand rested lightly near his holster, though he didn't draw. "I'm not threatening. I'm giving you a chance. Clear her name, or I'll bring the evidence myself. I reckon the folks in this town might like to know where their tax money's been going." Murdoch glared. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" Calder said quietly. "You left a paper trail, Sheriff. Your bookkeeper's got a conscience, and he came to me this morning." The sheriff went pale. "By sundown," Calder said, "you'll take down that notice accusing her. And you'll set the record straight, or I'll make sure Dust Rock knows what kind of law it's living under." He turned and walked out before anyone could move. The saloon doors swung behind him, leaving only silence. That night, Lila sat on the porch of the cabin, watching the horizon fade to pink and gold. She heard hoofbeats, steady and sure, and her heart leapt. Calder dismounted and walked up, his face calm, but she saw the faint bruise near his jaw. "What happened?" she asked, standing quickly. "Nothing that won't heal," he said. "The sheriff won't trouble you again. He's stepping down." Lila's eyes widened. "You did that for me?" He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "No one deserves to be left like that." She stepped closer, voice trembling. "Why, Calder, you barely knew me." He hesitated, his voice low and rough. "Maybe I saw too much of myself in you. Folks judged me once, too. Didn't think I was worth saving." A tear slipped down her cheek. "And someone did." He shook his head. "No, not back then. But I reckon I can do better now." For a heartbeat, neither spoke. The wind rustled through the pines, carrying the scent of rain. Then, softly, Lila reached out and took his hand. "You already did," she whispered. Calder's eyes softened. "You should rest. Tomorrow we'll ride to Carson's Pass. My cousin runs a ranch there. You'll be safe and welcome." She looked down, then back up, her voice breaking. "And what about you?" He smiled faintly. "Me? I've got fences to mend here. Dust Rock still needs fixing." Lila hesitated, then stepped closer, her hand still in his. "You saved me once, Calder Hayes. Don't make me say goodbye too." He stared at her, the world going still. Then, quietly, he said, "Then I won't." The storm clouds above broke with a distant rumble as the first drops of rain began to fall. Calder pulled off his hat, letting it rest between them, and brushed a wet strand of hair from her face. "You're safe now, Lila," he whispered, the same words he'd spoken the day he untied her. And this time, she believed him. The rain came harder, drumming on the porch roof as they stood together. No longer strangers, no longer afraid, two souls who had found, in each other, what the world had once denied them: trust, warmth, and love.